But you know, I think it emphasized the complexity of the issue, because on the one hand, you speak Hebrew and you come from a Jewish family, and you talked about anti-Semitism when you were young, and you lived on a kibbutz, and you actually considered staying and living in Israel. And on the other side, you were the most outspoken critic of Israel, and I mean, you undermine Israel's right to exist.
That's quite false. In fact, I don't regard myself as a critic of Israel. I regard myself as a supporter of Israel. The people who are harming Israel, in my opinion, and it's what I've said many times, are those who claim to be supporting it. They are helping drive Israel towards moral degeneration and possible ultimate destruction. I think support for Israel should be support for policies which are to its benefit.
But you talk about the fact that you don't support the right of Israel to exist as a Jewish state.
I don't support the right.
The Israeli public saw you go and shake hands with Hezbollah's leader Nasrallah just a couple of days before he started bombing Israel and so on.
A couple of days before, and furthermore, they saw pictures of me meeting Nasrallah, but they didn't see pictures of me meeting his main enemy, with whom I spent much more time, Walid Jumblat. What's happening is that when I went to Lebanon, as in any other country, I try to find out as much as I can about the country if I have a little time. Now, let's go back a step. You said I'm calling for the destruction of Israel, or some words like that.
No, that you...
I don't think it should exist as a Jewish state. Yeah, I don't think the United States should exist as a Christian state. I don't think that Pakistan should exist as an Islamic state.
So what should I understand from your words? What are you telling Israelis? Go back to Europe, live as a minority here in Israel, take a chance, disregard history, sit on the beach. What should we understand from your... What is your reaction tomorrow morning?
Exactly what I write 1,000 times. Though I was opposed to the existence of a Jewish state, and that was part of the Zionist movement, remember. As a Zionist youth leader, yes, I was opposed to the forming a Jewish state. Once it was formed, 1948, my position has consistently been that Israel should have all the rights of every state in the international system, no more and no less.
I understand that while your parents were alive, you were more cautious in making those arguments against Israel.
I don't make arguments against Israel. I make arguments for Israel.
For Israel, okay. Making these arguments for Israel, as you say. Was it a factor? I mean, was it hard for you because...
I was unhappy about the fact that they were subjected to a series of tantrums from hysterics in the United States. But I said the same things, and in fact, they approved of them.
So when in Israel they consider you to be someone who is harming Israel, does it hurt you personally?
Who considers
I mean, the public opinion, I mean...
The public opinion is reading what you're presenting to them.
Now, Dershowitz, you know, 2 weeks ago I interviewed Dershowitz on this show, and he said that, quote, our enemy's biggest assets are Israeli-bashing Jews like Professor Chomsky.
Well, that's a problem for Dershowitz. I have no interest in what he said. I mean, if you want the truth, he's a dedicated liar who's been exposed over and over again.
Professor Alan Dershowitz, author of The Case for Israel. Norman Finkelstein, your response.
Well, I appreciate Alan Dershowitz's seriousness, at least in these remarks. I have no intention whatsoever of getting involved in an ad hominem debate with Mr. Dershowitz. I'm interested in the facts. I was asked to come in and discuss his new book. I went home, purchased one copy. In fact, I purchased 2 copies. I read the book very carefully. I did what someone serious does with a book. I read the text. I went through the footnotes. I went through it very carefully. And there's only one conclusion one can reach, having read the book. And this is a scholarly judgment. It's not an ad hominem attack. Mr. Dershowitz has concocted a fraud.
Joining us now in Miami, Alan Dershowitz, professor, Harvard Law School, best-selling author. His latest book is The Case Against Israel's Enemies. In Washington, James Zogby, president of the Arab American Institute.
When Prince Bandar, who was the representative from Saudi Arabia, went to the Camp David and Taba meetings and said to Arafat, "You are committing a crime against the Palestinian people by rejecting the offer of statehood on 98% of the West Bank, full, complete statehood in Gaza." capital in Jerusalem and reparations $35 billion, and Arafat walked away from statehood, that was the tragedy that led to this all. And I'm hoping that Barack Obama, don't quote me, I'm quoting Prince Bandar, I'm quoting Dennis Ross. Yeah. That's what your opinion is, but let me tell you, the people who were there know what happened.
I've spoken to the people who were there, including American negotiators.
Turned down statehood.
Read Rob Malley and you'll get a very different narrative of what happened. You're a great lawyer for guilty clients, Alan. It doesn't work, though, in this case. Well, I'm sorry, but you've made cheap shots all night.
He didn't quote me, you notice. He didn't, because he knows better than to quote.
By the way, he offered to come to Birzeit to debate you. Do you think that they would invite a person like Dershowitz to come and talk in Birzeit?
You have to ask Birzeit. It doesn't make any difference to me. But, I mean, I've agreed to debate him reluctantly because he's extremely dishonest, but I do it. Let's be precise. Okay. They did not say anything about that because the Palestinians had already at Camp David and at Taba accepted the so-called pragmatic settlement, which would not affect the demographic character of Israel. If you want to learn about that, read the serious scholarship like Ron
That is simply
head of the
false. I can tell you that President Clinton told me directly and personally that what caused the failure of the Camp David-Taba Accords was the refusal of the Palestinians and Arafat to give up the right of return. That was the sticking point. It wasn't Jerusalem, it wasn't borders, it was the right of return.
Here's a simple exercise. You can believe one of two things: the extensive published diplomatic record, which I gave you a sample of and you can find in detail in books of mine and others, or what Mr. Dershowitz says he heard from somebody.
No, and check the diplomatic record.
Professor Dershowitz,
check the maps.
Sir, your question.
And read Dennis Ross's book.
And if you want to go into why Ross's book is worthless, I'll be happy to say it. It's obvious to any reader. It stops.
You know, what's obvious to you is not obvious to other people.
Well, I'll tell you why. It stops. Notice that his book stops immediately before Taba. Why? Because Clinton's parameters and what Clinton said about the acceptance of them by both sides and the Taba negotiations completely undermines Dennis Ross's book. So he therefore terminates it right before that and can therefore make these absurd claims. But if you want to learn something about it, look at Israeli scholarship. It's much more serious.
Thank you.
But this issue is there's nothing to debate. I mean, Israel should have the rights of any state, period.
If you had taken the other path in the 1950s and stayed in Israel, where would you think we would find you?
I would be with my friends in Israel who say the same thing. And you can read them in the press every day. And
if you wouldn't live in the States, where would you live?
If I wouldn't
anywhere else. 5 years ago, you were asked the question.
I was asked the question in an interview in Haaretz, and I said, well, I'd certainly go to Israel. Now I wouldn't say that. It's changed in the last few years. It's changed in ways which are extremely harmful to the country. You can see it harming itself day after day. It's in a mood of, not the whole country, but leading sectors, including the government, are in a mood of paranoia and irrationality, which is harming the country very seriously. It's true that my statements will be misused, for example, by Dershowitz, who is very dangerous for Israel. But yes, he's
dangerous for Israel?
Extremely, and he distorts and misrepresents my statements in ways which help his cause of supporting Israeli aggression and expansion, which is very dangerous for Israel.
The fact is that if you want to make peace and you want to stop the rockets, you then find a way to give people hope, to isolate extremists and give Palestinians a sense that the future can be brighter than today.
I agree with that.
Want that. I want it for the Israeli and the Palestinian people.
Jim?
But what Israel is doing is not helping to move the ball forward now, before, and I fear into the future, because no one is helping them do the right thing.
Jim,
neither Bush nor you, in defending their action, is helping them make the right choice.
When Israel never has to worry about me. Israel always, at the end of the day, is going to have my support. It had me at hello. But I have to tell you, a lot of Americans, they're not anti-Israel. No, don't suggest that at all. They just are fed up. They don't care about this conflict anymore. And over time, over time, that will become a national security problem for Israel, given the fact that the United States is your only friend.
If you're concerned about the safety of Israel, you should be concerned about these matters, because in case after case, the irrationality and the paranoia is very harmful and destructive. And in the long term, it could lead to very serious consequences.
Professor Noam Chomsky, thank you very much. תודה רבה שהתראיינת. תודה רבה.